Hey there, this is Beth Hovis, your sweet urban living lady. And on this series of videos that we're doing for podcast and YouTube, we are interviewing those who have gone on a healing journey and are reaching out and helping others with their healing process too. I'm calling it the Healer's Journey, and I'm really excited to welcome a special guest, Samantha Wendt. Samantha is a resurrected one, raised from the graveyard of trauma, addiction, and identity loss to become a kingdom mama, wife of nearly 20 years, and a voice of holy restoration in a culture of counterfeit healing. As founder of Empowered by Nature Wellness Center, she weaves faith, food, and fierce intercession to lead others into deep, lasting restoration, body, soul, and spirit. Weaponized with multiple holistic health certificates, including Master Herbalist and a trauma-informed mentor, Samantha carries an anointing to restore the wayward, awaken the weary, and break generational cycles through the power of Jesus. She doesn't chase platforms. She flips tables, wars in prayer, and walks in revival fire. If you've been silenced, sick, or searching, this is your divine interruption. Wow, Samantha, that is a powerful bio. That is, and I love it. Fierce when you say, I'm not just helping you with your food. I'm not just helping you with your faith. I am fiercely interceding in your life to help restore health. You've got to have a story. If you're sharing this passionately, you've got to have a story. And I'm really glad to welcome you here and hear about that story.
Well, Beth, first off, I want to say thank you for letting me be a part of your show, being a part of this healer's journey, because yes, I've been on my own journey and healing is always a part of it. It started when, as a child, I went through the bullying, the harassment from classmates to dating the wrong guys and going through emotional, physical, sexual abuse, dealing with sexual assaults, and then on top of all that, my parents taught me with my emotions, you just shove them down. You don't feel the feels, and you have something sugary to go on and be able to cover up those emotions. Right. So it's kind of this whole bottle and the pop bottles when you think about it and you shake them and they explode up. Yeah. And I was feeding it all the sugar, so that, yes. I met my husband when I was 18. We got married when I was 20, and, he's been through a lot of my healing journey with me. By the time I was in my mid-20s, I was at the point where I was over 240 pounds, couldn't do a flight of stairs, couldn't have kids, basically couldn't do the things a mid-20-year-old should be able to do. So I started seeing the Western Med doctor. That's how I was taught, and by the end of 2010, he chalked it up to being restless leg syndrome. Here's a pill. Have a nice day. Okay, but how does it?
So you went to the doctor and he's giving you a diagnosis that really isn't adequately dealing with or touching the root of what's going on in your life. So what happened after that?
So then in 2011, I started seeing a naturopathic doctor, and he was the one that ripped off the Band-Aid, and it hurt.
Oh, yeah.
He did his testing, he did his health assessment, and at the end, he straight face looked at me and said, Samantha, if you don't change your ways, at best, by the time you are 30, you'll be a vegetable in a nursing home.
Oh.
At worst, by the time you're 30, you'll be 6 feet under.
Wow. That was pretty direct. When you say in your bio that you were a resurrected person that you were in the grave. You really mean it. You were
Yeah.
headed towards death if you didn't make life changes.
Yeah. Because at that point, I was the queen to the 3 king-size candy bars, plus all the sweet treats and the pop. The candida that everybody has in their gut, I just kept feeding it. And like when you have a bread, loaf of bread, and you feed the yeast sugar, or it feeds it and it grows and makes it all bloated.
So I do have some sourdough videos that I have on my YouTube channel, and that's the truth. It's like I don't add sugar to my sourdough starter, just by the way, but people do. And the reason why is to cause the bread to grow. And we don't realize that when we're eating those candy bars, eating the bread, the cakes, the pasta, even potato chips. Some people are like, well, that's not sweet, so it's not feeding the candida. Mm-hmm. But it is. So you were doing all this. So were you eating that much to deal with the emotional issues that you were also having to bury and cover up?
That's what I was doing. And I didn't realize it at the time, but like I said, as a child, I was conditioned that, you just stuff down your emotions. Here's something sweet to eat, and it's all good. Sugar was there, your BFF. It was there for you in your good times, celebrating birthdays. And it was there for you in your bad times. It was there no matter what. And I felt I was invincible until I saw my naturopathic doctor. And then it's like, I guess I'm not invincible anymore.
Wow. Yeah. So you went to a refuge, sugar, basically.
Yes.
And in the process, you're feeding the candida, but you're also messing with insulin levels. And I don't know. I'm just sharing what I know about natural health and the physical body. So I'm just going, so you may not have had anything. They may have not said any issues with blood sugar or anything like that, but you don't have to have a diagnosis to start causing your pancreas to get stressed out. And that's one of the things that we, in natural health, we talk about the pancreas being connected with the sweet things in life. So when we feel like our life isn't sweet, if we have loss, if we have trauma, if we have grief, if we have shame, we go to food as a refuge to kind of fill the gap and make us feel better, which only works for a little bit. And then we have other issues, which I'm guessing you're getting ready to tell me about.
Well, and, on top of that, besides the pancreas, the spleen is affected too, because when you look at the little spleen, when it's weak, you crave sugar. Yeah. And when you consume the sugar, the spleen gets weaker. And it's a vicious cycle that nobody really talks about.
Did you deal with like mucus and allergies and things like that at the same time? Now I'm going back to the spleen is also connected with like mucus, if you're over mucousy. And when we feed our bodies pop and sugar and things like that, it creates more mucus.
Yeah. And I was stuffy, but at the time I wasn't really diagnosed with any allergies.
Okay.
After a bit seeing the naturopathic doctor, he's like, you've got an issue with eggs. Let's take out the eggs. It was later diagnosed that I've got a food allergy to eggs by the Western medicine. But my naturopathic doctor, I don't even remember all the pills and supplements that he put me on. But he put me on a slew of them. He put me on a specific meal plan. I don't like the word diet. Just because when you look at the first 3 words or the first 3 letters of diet, you get that one specified word, and that's just not what I want. So on the specific meal plan, I even had to watch how much of fruits I was eating. I pretty much could eat lean meats and veggies is what I could have.
Tell me what happened then.
So after the first year of being on the specific plan, with the nutritional supplements and the meal plan, I eradicated 80 pounds.
Wow.
Which we're going to celebrate. That's a huge thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not an advocate for fast weight loss, weight eradication. But 80 pounds over a year is pretty good. A lot of
good.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I went on to having a miscarriage. And then I went on to my rainbow baby and had a viable pregnancy.
Oh.
And just before she was born, I was diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease by the Western medicine.
Oh, no.
So I was put on antibiotics.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know at the time, but that same doctor diagnosed about another 18 to 20 patients with chronic Lyme disease at the same time. Which, for living in a small town, seems awfully fishy. You know, and it was in the stage where chronic Lyme was really starting to come out, you know, big deal. So which makes it look even fishier. But that's another story for another day. So I was on heavy antibiotics. She didn't get to breastfeed much because of the antibiotics that I was on. And plus she was born 4 weeks early. So she really just wasn't interested. So she was on formula, which I know is kind of a red flag. But, you know, it's what I could do at the time where I was at with my journey. And then on top of that, I didn't know better. So I started her on the vaccines, you know, which then will play a role later in the story. But, you know, being a mom of a young child, you know, I started slipping back into my sugar addiction days, which, you know, being on the antibiotics plus having the sugar, I was wrecking my gut again.
So let me kind of pause you right there, let you take a minute and gather your thoughts, Samantha, and just share with the audience and explain that, you know, you were going through so much. You were going through a major health challenge. You were dealing with postpartum, going through things after your daughter was born, and her own health challenges as well. And when we go back and we turn to food, fake foods, junk foods, not real foods as our refuge, it really messes with our gut health. It really causes the gut health to flare up, the issues to flare up again. So you started dealing with, you know, you had already overcome some of these health challenges, but because you were going through transition in your life, other stressful situations, it caused the feeling that you needed to turn to these sugary foods, the junk foods again. And then that caused the health challenges to come back.
So, you know, since I was starting to swirl back into the whole sugar addiction, end of January of 2016, January 31st, 2016, my kiddo and I were involved in a motor vehicle accident. She's still alive. I'm still alive. We got that. But we went to the ER right after the accident. Never neck braced, never backboard. She was carried in because she was 2.5 at the time. I walked into the ER because they were under construction, and the ER doctor, or I should say before we got in, the EMT, he looked at me, he's like, "Are you doing all right?" And I'm like, "I'm starting to feel a little dizzy." It's like, it's not that much better. So we saw the doctor, and he wasn't with us for very long, never did any imaging, no concussion protocol. He basically looked at us and said, "You've got some bumps, bruises, have a nice day." She pretty much got the same thing. You know, within the first month, they found 2 partial torn tendons in the right rotator cuff area on me and got stuck there. With her, she just had some bruising in the chest area because she had the 5-point harness on. But she had the night terrors, the trauma, She couldn't even see the vehicle without screaming. So, I'm dealing with my own injuries, plus dealing with a toddler having all this trauma, and still at this point, we were doing the vaccines, because I didn't know any better quite yet. But I knew that, going a little bit further into this, I was starting to live a living hell, a living nightmare, because she's at the age where she was big, spinning, doing all the noise, that age. And I was sensitive to light, sounds, movement, daily migraines, vertigo, everything. And about 8 months after the accident, I went to go see one neurologist. And since I was smiling, because I learned to smile and, put on a mask, put the mask back on, gotta act like everything is okay for the kiddo. And it was one of those that since I was smiling through the appointment and he couldn't see anything on his testing, he's like, it's all in your head. There's nothing wrong with you. Like, basically discredited me fully.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me that you went to the doctor, to a specialist, and they basically dismissed everything and told you that it was all in your head and basically left you with no hope of any way to get better?
Yeah. So I sought a second opinion. If you don't feel right with the first diagnosis, seek a second opinion. So I sought a second opinion, and she's like, it is in your head. You've been living with a concussion. At this point, now it's post-concussive syndrome. And then she's like, you've got dizziness, migraines, a whole list of, diagnosis.
All right. So this doctor took you seriously. And I want to go back real quick and say, one of the things that you said your daughter did was stimming. And for those who don't know what stimming is or didn't catch that, that's where we do something to soothe ourselves. It's for stimulating. It's like you're overstimulated like that. So to kind of bring it down, a lot of kids will rock their heads or do something with their thumbs or tuck their chin. So there's different things that people do to cope when there's just too much chaos inside and out. So just wanted to do that. Just make sure we heard that, because that's something we need to be aware of, that not only do kids do it, but we see it mostly in our kids, but adults do it as well. And it's something that we need to pay attention to. It's not something to ignore. It's not meant to be scary. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just going, that is something that we need to go, oh, is there a root cause to that issue? Now, that's your daughter's story, so I'm going to leave that one there, and I'm going to come back and go, okay, you went to the doctor, this one, the second doctor, second opinion. She actually paid attention, and she said, not only did you have this, you still have something. So yes. What did she recommend?
So I got to do lots of different therapies, from physical therapy to cognitive therapy. I don't remember all the names of the therapies. I mean, I went to a balance clinic. I also had one of the crystals in your ear was misplaced. So that's what was causing my vertigo. So I got to do that therapy and get it rocked back into place gently.
Good.
We don't want to force it back into place, because then that might,
Yeah.
But, so I did all of the treatments that she had suggested, and I still wasn't fully healed. And so she put the label of chronic post-concussive syndrome on my charts. And that was in early 2017. And I still was like, okay, why am I not healing? It's been about a year since the accident. I started doing Google, you guys. I know they tell you not to Google search your symptoms, but what do we all do? We go to Google.
Sometimes Dr. Google does help us discover things, right?
It does. And what I have learned is through the trauma, it can trigger your DNA to change. And it could cause food allergies. So I'm like, Is there something to this that's causing the inflammation in my body to not be able to expel and help me heal? So I went to my Western med doctor, and he tested me for celiac and did a bunch of intolerances. Came back that I did have celiac. I was also intolerant to wheat, dairy, corn, and peanuts. That's what we had found at that time. It would later come back that I'm allergic to all of those things. And so my kiddo got tested as well.
Yeah.
She is, at the time that we did the testing, it was intolerant to peanuts, wheat, dairy, and corn. And then she had soy as well.
So that's in everything. Okay.
Yeah.
If
Corn
you go to the
is in everything.
store, that is soy and or wheat and or corn or dairy. It's like, so, I'm sure the question is, well, what do I eat now?
A lot of people are like, you must eat ice. I'm like, yeah. That's what I eat. I eat ice and I eat air.
Yeah. Okay.
All jokes aside, so where I'm at now, we'll kind of flash forward here for a second, is that I'm airborne to all grains, including your false grains, your quinoas, your flax seeds, and I'm also airborne to eggs. On top of that, my body can't do any beans except for green beans and peas. And then I'm allergic to cane sugar. We went 360 on that one. And then I can't do anything with latex. So like latex cross-reactive foods. So bananas, avocados. Also, after I was deemed airborne to eggs, now my body's not letting me have chicken meat and turkey meat. It really limits, but what I can have is bison meat. There's one canned tuna that I can have. And then I also do fruit smoothies every single morning. And that's sound gross, but it's healthy, you guys. I make homemade bone broth, and I put the bone broth into my smoothies. That's my liquid. That's my protein for my smoothies. And then I can do salads, your fresh fruits, your fresh veggies. And then for supper, a lot of times it's just yellow potatoes. I know it doesn't sound the healthiest, but it's what my body is allowing me to eat. And that's what we have to go on some days. It's a lot healthier than going to some fast food chain. I can tell you that.
Okay, so I really hate to kind of interrupt your flow here again, but I just want to touch on what you're saying about the foods that you're having to eat, the choices that you're having to make, because a lot of times when we talk to, when we're helping our clients, you and I are both natural wellness practitioners, or when we're listening to people online and we're talking about what you can eat, what you should eat. And, it's like we have this diet that we go, oh, you should only eat this, and potatoes are bad, and this is good, and don't eat this. And yet you are having to eat those things that we might not typically recommend because you're so sensitive to so many foods. You're actually having allergic reactions to all these foods. And so you're having to adapt and adjust and do what is right for your body. And I just want to say to all of our listeners, there are ideal ways of eating. There are foods out there that, we typically recommend. Eat your fruits, eat your veggies, eat your rainbow of beautifully colored foods. Stay away from this. Don't eat junk food. Don't eat foods with additives and preservatives, right? I mean, that's just the basic. But what you're saying is you're having to go like a step beyond that and find what works for you, right?
Oh, and we're not done yet. So end of May of 2017, my Western med doctor that I had at that time, he literally looked at me and said, "You're as good as I can get you. There's nothing else I can do. You're just going to be on pain meds and sitting in a chair the rest of your life." Let's remember, your Tylenol, your ibuprofen, they contain corn. Most prescription meds contain corn or dairy or some other allergen, and it doesn't have to be disclosed because you're not ingesting it, but you're ingesting it. it's one of those pet peeves that I have. It's not food, so they don't have to label it.
So what you're telling me is that the very over-the-counter and prescription medications that people are turning to help alleviate symptoms may actually be causing them, because if you're sensitive to corn, then these OTCs and prescriptions may actually have these foods in them, but because they're not considered food, they don't have to be labeled and it's not disclosed. So you may be taking something that could be exacerbating the problem that you're dealing with. And I know that's true from the natural health standpoint too. Even the capsules that we use for our herbal supplements and our vitamins and minerals, depending on what they put in there, the flow agents, the capsule itself, or whatever, it could be made with something that you may be sensitive to. And so we need to read labels and we need to dig further. If you're having symptoms and issues like Samantha's having, or, had something similar, and you're going, why can't I get better? You might want to investigate if you have some kind of food sensitivity. It may not be a full-blown allergic reaction, but it may be just enough that it keeps your body, that your immune system on all the time. And then therefore you're always feeling down, draggy, lack of energy, and having reactions to things that, you might not normally have.
They get around with that, and it frustrates me. But anyways, we get to September of 2017. My right hand ceases to work, to which I finally pushed to see a hand specialist, who finally, when I got to see him, did an MRI of my hand, ordered an MRI of my hand. And I was able to see him that same day, later in the day, thankfully. And he came in the room and he looked at me, he's like, Samantha, have you ever had a broken hand before? I'm like, nope. He's like, all right, you've had one for 21 months. I broke my hand in the accident, and the doctors never caught it before then.
My goodness. So was your hand hurting?
Oh, yeah, it was hurting. Okay. So after the accident, I had pain in my pinky, my ring finger, and my thumb. So right from the beginning, I had pain, and they dismissed it. Story of my life when it comes to Western medicine. So I was rushed into surgery a week later. It was supposed to be about an hour and a half. There was more damage in there than what they knew. And so it went closer to 4 hours. And having the chronic post-concussion syndrome, being on anesthesia is nerve-wracking because you have a brain injury, and if they don't watch you, there could be the side effect of death. And it's like, all right, heavy prayers before we go in. And my husband, he knew this going in, that it was a high risk for me to be able to have this surgery, because of the concussion stuff.
Now let me clarify, because you're talking about hand surgery, and my husband's had two or three hand surgeries, elbow surgery, and they don't put him under for that. They just do local stuff. Were you under? Did they actually
put me fully under?
Okay.
They put me fully under, because what we did is they fused one of the joints in the thumb. So now it's bent all the time, so I could be able to open it, because there was inflammation in the joint. And he's like, it could be arthritic within a couple of years. I'm like, well, we're ready, and let's take care of that as well. That was part of this accident stuff.
Wow.
And then, when they got in, I actually have part of somebody else's bone in my hand.
Wow.
They had to replace some of it. It's like, oh, okay, all right. But now it's like on the back of my hand, my main scar is in the letter of a J. And that's my right hand. And my kiddo, we were at a farmer's market selling microgreens and hydroponic lettuce one summer. And my kiddo, she was running her finger down my hand, and she's like, Mom, you have a J on the back of your right hand. Is it Jesus at the right hand?
Oh.
Ever since she said that, I'm like, I'm so proud of my scar now. It's like before, I'm like, I'm just going to hide it. That's a big ugly scar to be having. And then she's like, Mom, but Jesus is at the right hand. I'm like,
that's incredible. Right. Way to go.
I unmarked.
Way to go, kiddo. There you go. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So
let's kind of finish up with the trauma side of things and get into the better side, of where I'm at nowadays.
Okay. Yeah.
So 2020, April of 2020 came, and my naturopathic doctor passed away out of the blue. And it wasn't due to what was going around in 2020. Mm-hmm. It was due to the fact that he was in his 70s and his heart just gave, So it was his time to go.
Yeah.
But that spiraled me down the whole rabbit hole of, okay, now what do I do for my health? Mm. How can I help my family's health? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, magically, the golden question, how can I help somebody else? And that's what stemmed me into looking. And on September 28th of 2020, I embarked on a 16-week journey at Trinity School of Natural Health, and I seriously did not calculate out when the breaks were, when it would finish. I didn't calculate this out. It finished on January 31st of 2021. So 5 years to the date of the motor vehicle accident. And then on February 3rd, I was awarded the certificate as a master herbalist. That's a God story, right?
Wow. I keep saying wow, but yeah, congratulations on getting your certification through Trinity. And I love that the anniversaries lined up, that something that wasn't so great, it turned around to be something amazing for you. So congratulations. That is just so awesome. Okay, so now that you've got your training and you've come through your journey and you're going, okay, so tell me what happens next.
So I continued on and I got the certified Zyto specialist at Trinity also, which I actually don't use to this day. We'll get why in a little bit. But then on March 21st, 2021, I opened up Empowered by Nature Wellness Center to have the sanctuary to be able to help the wayward souls. And then Judy had invited me to a webinar in September timeframe of 2020 or 2021, I should say. And she is like, just come to this webinar. It doesn't cost you anything, just a little bit of time. And I'm like, okay, what do I have to lose? And it was Dr. Todd Frisch. And he was talking about, the healing and disease of the body. And then he was talking about his program, Shape Reclaim. And he was also talking about facial analysis. And I'm like, I need to know more. Like, I just knew that this is what I didn't have quite the money at the time, but I'm like, all right, let's do this. Let's figure this out. So I dove headfirst, became a Shape client myself, Shape Reclaim client, went on the program myself, but then I also became a practitioner. And then Dr. Todd Frisch did a facial analysis on me. Now, you guys, he didn't know me from Jill down the street. And he told me more than what a Western medicine doctor could tell me about my own health.
So just by looking at your face, he was able to get to some things that you were dealing with that the doctors had not ever been able to figure out. Wow, that's really cool.
Just looking at my face, 3 different angles, and I really didn't give him anything. I didn't give him a health history. I didn't, and he's like, you've been dealing with a concussion, your spleen's weak, your pancreas is weak. I'm like, dude, yes. And yeah, I'm like, okay, teach me. I need to know what this is that you're, And so I bought his book, WTF, Why the Face. And it's him and his daughter, Abby, who wrote it. And I read through it. He taught me. I did a couple of facial analysis on some people myself. And he looked through them before I sent him off, doing the mentor thing. And he's like, I don't know how you're doing this, Samantha, but there's maybe one or two things that I might change on these facial analysis, but they're not big enough to change. He's like, you've got this. So he's like, you're one of my top facial analysis readers in the United States. I'm like, all right, I'll take that on.
So, it's really impressive. The face reveals what's going on in the body. The different sections like the chin, the cheeks, the nose, it all is a reflex of showing what's going on in the body. So to be able to just look at someone's face and go, oh, look at that, or eyes and neck and ears, things like that. It's all kind of connected, but mostly you're talking about the face. That's really impressive that you can do that. And just so you know, like, this is not parlor tricks. I'm not saying Samantha's going to do a face analysis for you and she's going to be able to, do something weird. It's the body's reflecting. The body reflects back. And we know that even medical doctors, if your face is pale, if you're, if the cheeks are too red or something like that. So this is not something weird and strange and woo-woo. So just want to make sure that our listeners know that this is tried and true. It's been used for thousands of years to help us, discover what's going on inside the body.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what really captured me is that, he's like, you've got a concussion. I'm like,
so he said, so he's telling you, now Dr. Frisch is a chiropractor. So this is not something outside of his realm to be able to look at you and say, you have a chiropractor, you have a concussion. But he did that by looking at your face.
Yeah. He did that by looking at my face, not knowing my symptoms. And so that's really what got me. It's like, okay, this is why I needed to know. At this point, after he made the certificate program, I jumped in and did the certificate program. I didn't need to, but, people like to have the certificates. Gives some credibility to that.
Yeah. So you had the personal experience, and then you went and you got the training and the knowledge to, how do I help people? How do I help myself? How do I help my family? And how do I help others?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I've done my kiddo, like, I'll be watching commercials and I'll be like, oh, that person's potentially dealing with liver or, right, this or that. And she's like, ugh, mom's doing it again.
Welcome to the family of natural wellness practitioners, because, like, I do the same thing. I'm like, oh my goodness, she probably has. And we do say, I want to just be absolutely clear, that I don't think that Dr. Frisch was giving you a diagnosis when he said you have a concussion. I just want to acknowledge that he is a chiropractor, and because he can actually say that. But as natural wellness practitioners, we're not going to look at anyone and say, oh, you have a concussion, you have diabetes, you have this. That is outside of our scope of practice. And what we're looking at is, when we look at the face, when we look at the eyes, because I'm an iridologist, like I said, and we're looking at the fingernails or whatever it is, and we're saying the body's reflecting on the face or on the fingernails in the eyes, the potential health issues that people are dealing with. We're not diagnosing. That is not what we're doing. We don't diagnose, treat, prescribe any disease or illness whatsoever. We just look at it and go, your body's saying you need to support these areas. The body is indicating through these signs and markings where you need to support your body. So you're doing that now with your Empowered by Natural Wellness Center.
Yep. Empowered by Nature Wellness Center. And it's even fun, sometimes we'll be out in public and my kiddo, she'll be watching, people watching, and she's like, Mom, I think that person might be dealing with something with a concussion. I got you on that one. She knows what to look for when you're looking at the, potential brain health. And
wow,
she's
that's
only
amazing.
11 at this point, and so she's learning. She's been reading my books too, and they're on my shelf. They're easy for her to access, and
good for her. Okay, so all right, so you've learned all this stuff. Tell me, because you're saying I had to, watch what I'm eating, and I can't eat this, I can't be in a room with that. But you're alive and you're vibrant. And you said something earlier about having like 80% of your health. You feel like you're at 80%. Tell me, what did you do? What are you doing besides watching what you eat to get that back?
So one of the steps that I took was being on the ReClaimed program myself. And within 5 months of being on the program, they're at a local community pool. They were offering a lifeguard, American Red Cross lifeguard certificate. And that was something that I wanted to do as a child. I'm like, all right, I don't necessarily have to do this, but there was a scholarship where I could do it for free. I'm like, all right, I may have the chronic post-concussion syndrome and 3 fused joints in my dominant hand, but let's go out and let's do this. On the first try, I became a certified American Red Cross lifeguard, which is a pretty huge feat with having the chronic post-concussion syndrome and the 3 fused joints. Because if you've never done anything with the lifeguard training, you got to swim 300 to 500 yards consistently. And then on top of that, doing life rescues. And then you also have to dive 10 feet down to retrieve a brick and then swim 20 yards back to the shore with it. So it's very physical.
Oh my gosh, Samantha, that is absolutely amazing. I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm going, look at all of the health challenges that you've had. And, you're told in your 20s that if you don't change your life, you're going to die, basically. And here you are. Not only are you overcoming your health challenges, you're thriving. I mean, wow, that's so cool that you passed the test on the very first try. That means you really have done things to take back your health. Wow.
I was on the SHAPE program. I was detoxing mold out of my body, helping the lymphatic system. So I was on a few different supplements. But I definitely say that SHAPE was a big proponent in helping with that. Also, part of my health journey of healing is last June, a year ago, I was undiagnosed with chronic post-concussion syndrome. And I was told in 2019 that I would never heal from it. And in 2024, the neurologist, I had seen her for a different thing, and she brought up the chronic post-concussion syndrome. She's like, make sure all doctors' offices have this off your record. I'm like,
okay, wait, just a minute. So you're telling me that a diagnosis that you had received about post-concussive syndrome was on your permanent medical record was actually reversed because of the things that you started doing naturally to help overcome. You said getting rid of mold out of the body, doing the SHAPE ReClaimed, getting things right in your body again did so much for you that it actually reversed a diagnosis. That's incredible.
She literally looked at me. She's like, Samantha, I don't know what you're doing, but you have healed your chronic post-concussion syndrome. Whatever you are doing, continue doing it. And it was all holistic measures.
So I just want to share, Samantha, since you've been telling us about SHAPE ReClaimed, and yeah, I do know Dr. Todd Frisch, and I actually shared, I sat next to him at the Barbara O'Neill self-heal event that he and I both spoke at in November of 2024, and got to know him and Linda a little bit. And actually, my husband and I both took Shape Reclaimed, and I became a Shape Reclaimed practitioner, but I don't do that now. That was just one of those things that I love to learn. So I learned all about it and I got it, but I'm like, I don't use that now. But I will say, for those of you who are going, does this really work, or is she making this up? I'm going to tell you that Rob, my husband, is known as Mr. Sweet on my Sweet Urban Living channel. He was dealing with, I mentioned he'd had the hand surgeries. Well, he's also had knee surgery before too. And he was always in pain, and he's always dealt with carrying a little bit of extra weight. And the more weight that you carry, the more pain you are in. And of course, when you stand all day like he does, it impacts your knees. And so he was, dealing with this health issues too. And, you mentioned Judy. Judy's a good friend of mine. And we taught together at Trinity. We do the Brilliant Health Weekends Away events and things like that. So Judy messaged me one day, and she's like, I lost 18 pounds and the pain. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So I'm like, tell me more. And so Rob and I started it. And that was the thing that got me. It was, and the pain. It was like, because Rob had been on weight loss programs. We'd done different things like the Whole30, the paleo. We'd done things, and he would lose weight, but he didn't lose the pain. His knees still hurt. His joints still hurt. It was when we did the Shape Reclaimed that he not only lost the weight, he lost the pain. So I just wanted to put that in there just to share our own perspective of the Shape Reclaimed program really does work. And if you're going, is she just saying something and it doesn't? I'm like I said, Judy messaged me, I lost 18 pounds plus the pain. And then Rob experienced it. It helped me lose weight too. And Samantha is telling us the same thing. And I know other people have lost weight, and not just lost weight, but it had a change in their health, right? So if this is something that you're going, hey, that sounds really interesting, then you might want to connect with Samantha, because she is using this in her practice. And I just wanted to share, like I said, we're going to have this in the show notes, so you can just click and look and see. But you can visit her website, which is empoweredbynaturewellnesscenter.com. Again, that'll be in the link below. And you have a couple of freebies that you're offering. One is on dealing with allergies. And then another one is it's in the works at the moment, but by the time this is released, it should probably be available. If it's not, keep looking for it, but it'll be on her website. It's something about emotional concussion. Can you tell us, before we go, real briefly, what that's about? What's going on with that?
So your face, because I love doing facial analysis, it will show with the concussions, when we look at the specific things for concussion area with your brain health, it could be physical or it could be emotional. Now, the other thing that we look at with facial analysis is looking at the ears, and the ears can tell us at what age you may have had trauma. And it's a fun little thing. I've actually had one of my clients going, I did have this going on at that same exact age that you were talking about. She's like, wow. I've never, ever told anybody before. She's like, so I don't even know how you knew that I had trauma at this age.
Wow. That's amazing. So, yeah. I mean, and that's the same, the ears do that. And as an iridologist, the eyes can actually help us pinpoint things that happen at certain ages. It can't tell us what happened. Yeah. But it can tell us that something might have happened or might, so that's really cool.
And then the other thing with the face and the traditional Chinese medicine is with looking at different places. If you have different blemishes or lines, like let's take your liver. In traditional Chinese medicine, that's related to anger, with the emotion. And so we can look at the different, the face, and start linking, thinking and linking of what's going on within the body. And you don't have to diagnose. You just have to support the systems.
Yeah. So that's beautiful. And that's what you're helping people do. You're helping people to look at what's going on specifically in their life. It's not just everybody gets the same exact thing. Everybody eats the same. Everybody takes the same. It's what do you need? So if you are interested and if this sounds like something that you're going, hey, Beth, I need to get my health back. I have something that I just need help with. There are absolutely no guarantees. We can't guarantee the same results. Unfortunately, that's one of those things where I have to say that because we can't. There's just, it depends on what effort you put into it. It depends on what you've been dealing with. There's a lot that it depends on. And all we're doing is saying we can help point you to the way to support your body with the challenges that you're facing. So if that sounds like something that you're going, hey, I really want to talk to Samantha, if you go to her website, you can look. She offers consultations virtually, right? So
yes, all virtually for United States and up into Canada.
Wow, that's really cool. So definitely take a look at what she has to offer. Visit her website, and if you're interested in learning more about the Shape Reclaimed program and what it can do for you, you can definitely reach out to her. If you're interested in learning more about iridology, taking iridology so that you can use it for yourself or your family or in your practice, then you can find my link in the comments below. I have an iridology intensive that I offer several times a year. I also offer iridology online that you can take, work at your own pace. And so just check that out, because doing face, tongue, nail analysis, doing iridology, it's amazing at what the body is revealing. So Samantha, before we wrap this up, I want to ask if there is just one thing that you could recommend. What would that be? What would that one thing be that you would recommend to our listeners today?
Just embrace the journey. Embrace where you're at. Don't be feeling the shame or guilt that you're not, don't look at my journey where, okay, I'm now not 240 pounds. I was 240 pounds, but I've had to take the steps. I've had to do the different chapters. So embrace your chapter 1 and just start going and being able to embrace the journey, because it's beautiful.
Well, Samantha, that is so good. Just, wherever you are in your journey, start there, do what you need to do to get back your health. And I really appreciate you joining me today. Samantha, this has been so much fun. I've loved getting to know you a little bit more and sharing your journey with the Sweet Urban Living audience. It's been so good. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Beth.